Anybody else kind of feel like that right now? Thanks for joining. I'm Craig. Logan is not at his usual location today, so it's just going to be me tonight. Just kind of wasn't going to do this. Was originally going to do this as the game unwound. Decided maybe I'm not going to do this, but I was all set up. So here we are. Just going to decompress a little bit. I took notes for most of the game, expecting to do this. So we'll just jump right into it. Survive and advance, although we're not really advancing anything, but definition of survival here. Illinois probably did not deserve to win this game, but it's a game you needed to win, and Illinois fought to get the win. So it's a 1 in the win column and not in the loss. So that's definitely a positive. 30-28, Illinois wins on a field goal with 5 seconds left from Caleb Griffin. So happy for Caleb. Danville kid, just loves the Illini, loves playing for Illinois and everything about Illinois. So I'm so happy for him that he got this moment and he made the most of it. So that's the first thing I want to say. Great moment for Caleb and his family and all the people back in Danville. The story is Luke Altmyer. As we if we have like top threes like we used to do on our post games, the story is Luke Altmyer. The dude is a quarterback. He is a quarterback. 18 for 26, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the interception. Not a great decision. It was triple coverage, but his passer rating was 155, which is excellent. And he was the leading rusher. Nine attempts for 69 yards on the ground for Luke Altmyer tonight. That's more rushing yards. I tweeted it during the game. That's more rushing yards than Tommy DeVito had all of last season. But you have to do that. You have to have the caveat that college rushing stats take into account sacks. So if he gets sacked for 10 yards, 10 yards come off of his rushing yardage. So DeVito had some of that last year during a full season, but Altmyer 69 yards. DeVito had 35 last year. When you have that dual threat dynamic that they showed tonight, it makes the defense have to focus on a couple different things. And that's great for this Illini offense because we know that they struggled at times last year to put up points, but they were saved by the defense. That leads to my next point. The defense definitely has some concerns and questions in the defense for sure. We expected it. When you lose 3 guys to the NFL, top 3 first, second, third round pick each, you're going to have some holes to fill, and that definitely was glaring tonight. They did bow their neck up a little bit in the red zone and force a couple field goals instead of touchdowns, but Toledo did pretty much whatever they wanted, and they really dominated the line of scrimmage. It wasn't even close in the first half. They were pushing both Illinois offensive and defensive line back and controlling the trenches and the line of scrimmage, which led to the halftime deficit. What was it at halftime? 12-7 at halftime, and then it was 19-7. So, the defense stepped up when they needed to, but it's definitely a concern the way they played tonight. They did have their moments, but there's definitely room to grow. I thought Xavier Scott played well. I thought Miles Scott played well with the interception. Obviously, the pick 6 really is what got the momentum going and turned the tide for Illinois. I just kind of started rambling here and didn't even get in on the stats. I went over Luke Altmyer. Reggie Love was good. He ran the ball 12 times for 58 yards. No touchdown. Josh McCray, 11 rushes for 30 yards. He did score a touchdown on the first drive where Reggie did most of the heavy lifting, and then Josh came in and punched it into the end zone. Pat Bryant was great on the outside. He had 6 catches for 64 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Great season debut for him. Isaiah Williams, 5 catches, 51 yards. Casey Washington saved the game. 4th and 4, I think it was, with 2 minutes left, something like that. Altmyer just threw it up, and Casey went and made a play. And kind of like the Josh Amator-Bebe play at Michigan State a couple of years ago, 4th and Bebe. Casey did the same thing, went and got it and kept the game alive. He had 4 catches for 54 yards. Tip Ryman had 2 catches on the first drive for 33 yards, and he didn't see a ball the rest of the game. And then Reggie Love, 1 catch for 9 yards. And then, like I said, it was Miles Scott, I think, that had the interception. Yeah, Miles Scott had the interception. Dylan Rosiak led in tackles. Tariq Barnes second. Miles Scott played well. The defensive line finally picked it up a little bit there in the second half and contained them. Dequan Finn, let's go over his stats as well, because he tore him up. 20 for 36. Not great percentage-wise, but 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then that pick 6 that he threw. But he also ran for 88 yards on 20 attempts and a touchdown. He was we knew he was good from his stats last year, but I didn't think the game plan contained him well enough initially. It's the first game of the year with a new defense, so there's going to be some of that. But I thought they did make a couple adjustments and contained him a little bit. What else do I have written down here? They came out. That first drive was like, you couldn't have asked for anything better. It was, they had some early RPOs that, you faked the handoff to Reggie, and then you threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage to Isaiah, and he had a nice gain. They ran it looked like it was going to be a sweep across behind the line of scrimmage, but Isaiah stopped on a dime and went back to where he came from and ran, got a good gain. And then I mentioned those 2 catches by Ryman. They were playing some no huddle, but then they didn't do any more of that. Then it was just like read option up the middle, read option up the middle, read option up the middle. That's when they fell behind. They did start to do a couple more things and wrinkles in the second half, but I just thought it was weird that the first drive looked so much different than everything else in the first half. It was, I know coaches like to script out their first 10 plays, but it's like they scripted out the first 10 plays and then they just ripped all those plays up. It's like, okay, those are the only time we're going to do that. We're going to go back to read options and handoffs up the middle and all of that. So it was definitely not a great first half aside from the first drive. Altmyer was 5 for 5, 64 yards on the first drive. It was perfect. And the defense came and kind of let Toledo do whatever they wanted that whole first half. But the story of the first half was penalties. 9 penalties for 90 yards in the first half for Illinois. Bielam had mentioned it going into and coming out of the halftime. And it was stupid stuff. It was, I forgot what the penalties. There was an unsportsmanlike conduct on Tariq Barnes that kept the drive alive, I think. And then there was another one. I forgot. Oh, there was a pass interference, I think, that on third down that would have forced a fourth down that kept the drive alive. So the penalties were a huge factor in the halftime deficit. Only 1 in the second half. 9 for 90 yards in the first half, 1 for 10 yards in the second half. So very, very a lot better in the second half discipline-wise. Total yardage, Toledo won the total yardage game 411 to 374. Very even as far as passing and rushing. Toledo 230, Illinois 211. Rushing, Toledo 181, Illinois 163. So this was a very evenly played game. Toledo had the ball for 7 more minutes than Illinois. It's just Illinois had the ball last and got into field goal range, and that missed 2-point conversion for Toledo there with 2 minutes left whenever they scored their last touchdown was key. 3 minutes left, 2:59 left. That was key, stopping that, because if they get that, then it's a tie ball game. We're going to overtime, and who knows what happens in overtime. So I know I've been on here like 10 minutes already, but thank you for joining. Follow all of our social media stuff. It's all on the screen here or in the description if you're listening to this after the fact. Logan is obviously not with me tonight. He is doing other things, but thanks for joining. There's the live chat. It's been going off quite a bit. Michael in here, thanks for tuning in. Finally able to catch this live. My heart just restarted. Yeah, mine. It was it was stressful like last hour, and I just saw it coming. I saw it coming because Illinois got up by 8, I think it was, and that's just what Illinois does. They don't put people away, football or basketball. I talk about it in basketball all the time. They just don't put people away. So I figured Toledo was going to come back. Continuing to talk about Altmyer. Yeah, I'm very excited for the rest of this year and potentially a year or two more of Luke Altmyer. He looked fantastic. Kane, thanks for joining in. Definitely a tale of two different halves. They played a lot better in the second half compared to the first. Yep. That's it's obvious. We talked about the penalties. Defense will grow. Michael says. Kane again. They beat themselves in the first half, but played better in the second. Yeah, I mean it's all stuff that I've talked about. This is a good one from Mike. I didn't expect the defensive weak spot to be the D line. They got pushed around tonight. Yeah, I made a couple notes of that. That the Toledo O line was not letting the D, like there was no pressure. Illinois D line got no pressure until halfway through the third quarter. I don't know if it was fatigue or cramps from the Toledo O line, but finally Randolph and Newton, you started hearing their names in the broadcast and seeing them making some plays, but it took a good 35, 40 minutes for Newton and Randolph to do something, but they finally did. But I agree. I thought that the D-line would be strong, and I thought the secondary was a little bit better tonight, the way they played. Greg Palermo, thanks for joining. Greg was dipping in and out, but didn't feel like they were getting Williams the ball enough. I feel like I've heard that one before. We've been hearing that for years that they don't get Isaiah Williams the ball enough. I would agree. I think you can never get Isaiah Williams the ball enough. How many touches? He had 7 touches tonight, not including punts. I think he returned punts, but I don't know if he even returned any punts. 5 catches for 51 yards, 2 rushes for 7 yards, long of 5. His longest catch was 20. But yes, I agree. He caught 56% of his targets. He was targeted 9 times. So they tried to get him the ball. He was the most targeted player on the field. But I would like to see some more designed plays like they ran in that first drive, the backwards pass behind the line of scrimmage, and then the kind of the counter that he took coming off the sweep. A couple more people in here. Kai, everything I expected was wrong. Secondary looked good. Front wasn't. QB and wide receiver solid. O-line didn't look good on run plays, but the idea of finally having a good young QB makes me excited. Yeah, for sure. Our the group chat couldn't say enough good things about Luke Altmyer, and he was much better than we expected. I knew he could do a little bit more than DeVito because DeVito was kind of hampered by an ankle injury a little bit last year, so he wasn't as mobile. But Altmyer was super impressive. The only negative I have for Luke Altmyer was the interception, which Captain Obvious, of course, the interception was the bad play, but it was triple coverage. It wasn't even close. I don't know what he was looking at there. But yeah, Altmyer is exciting. I'm not worried about the defensive front yet. If they get pushed around next Friday at Kansas, then maybe. Because I mean, think when Illinois got down by whatever the largest deficit was, 19-7, I think it was. I was thinking about the schedule, and I'm like, this is probably the second easiest team, quote unquote, that Illinois is going to play, third, other than Indiana and Northwestern. So if you can't beat this team at home, is this a 3 or 4 win team? Because next week's Kansas at Kansas, so learn a lot more there next week in Lawrence. Arlen, thanks for hopping in. Really feel good about the offensive skill guys this year, especially Bryant and McCray. Yes. The skill players are finally in place. We even saw Malik Elzy once, almost made a great catch. It was knocked out. The defensive back made a good play on him. But yeah, the skill players, I have no concerns. Running back more so. I don't think Love and McCray were great. They were not getting much, but a lot of that has to do with the offensive line not opening holes for them. Altmyer was the best on the ground tonight. Derek Wade, let's pump the brakes on this. Pat Bryant better than Marvin Harrison Jr. He did have a better day today, but I think Marvin Harrison's a top 5 pick. So Jay in here, wow, I didn't think that 4th and 4 pass at the end had a chance when I was watching live. I didn't either. I thought it was going out of bounds, but Casey made a great play. and Jay as well. Where was this supposed vaunted D-line? That's my biggest question. I know Illinois was only rushing 3 D linemen most of the game, and that was probably to do what they could to contain the quarterback, Dequan Finn, but they just never got pressure until late in the third quarter and some of the fourth quarter, and that's what allowed the comeback. But I don't know what happened. They have to improve, because if Illinois wants to win, this D line has to set the tone, because the secondary, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with the Big Ten teams, skill position players. Toledo, I know they're the favorite to win the MAC, but playing Wisconsin or Iowa, they're going to have better skill players that these corners and safeties are going to have to keep up with. And if the defensive line isn't getting pressure, that means those wide receivers and running backs are going to have more time to get open away from those defensive backs. So, yeah, D-line needs to improve. They need to play better on Friday night. Michael's listening to Coach. I'm going to go listen to it after this. Let me know if he says anything of note. Okay. Caught up on the chat. If you got anything, I'm going to check it one more time after this, and then I'm going to call it a night. So I didn't really take any more notes, though, actually, now that I think about it. Riveting podcasting, live video here. So I think that's all I've got. Michael says Coach is big on QB. As to be expected, he won him the game. He was the best player on that side of the ball, probably the best player for Illinois today. So that's as to be expected. Okay, I think that's all I've got. Let's see what else is going on around the Big Ten, just to have an update. I'm not sure how I feel about these night games. I kind of like I don't mind a noon or a 3:30 game. I'm not a big fan of these night games. Michigan crushed East Carolina. Ohio State only beat Indiana by 23-3. Kyle McCord did not look good for Ohio State. I watched most of that game, and I don't know that he's the answer for them at quarterback. We'll see what they do moving forward. Penn State with a late cover, 38-15 over West Virginia. Wisconsin 38-17 over Buffalo. Iowa 24-14 over Utah State. Ryan Walters loses his debut, 39-35. Fresno State beats Purdue in West Lafayette. Maryland beats Towson 38-6. And then the games earlier. Last night, Michigan State 31 over Central Michigan 7, and Minnesota beat Nebraska 13-10. Thursday, Northwestern and Rutgers play tomorrow at noon. The big game was that Colorado TCU game. I don't know if you guys watched that, but holy cow, Colorado was like appointment television this year. They looked awesome, but they also gave up 42 points. So, Arlen, that's what I was getting to next. How are we feeling for next week? This definitely makes me more concerned than I was. I thought that Illinois was definitely a better team than Kansas, but I'm not so sure anymore. Kansas played last night. They beat Missouri State, an FCS school, 48-17. Their starting quarterback did not play. They had their backup. Jason Bean played 22 for 28 for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. They've got a lot of running backs here. They had a guy carry the ball 13 times for 94 yards, a guy 8 carries for 41 yards. Their quarterback carried it 5 times for 41 yards. Another guy, 6 carries. Another one, 4 carries. So they spread the ball out in the backfield. That's for dang sure. And they had 8 guys catch a pass. None had more than 4 receptions. So they spread the ball out. They played really well last night, it looked like. What's their starter's name? Is it Daniels? Jaden? No, that's Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels is their normal starter. He was hurt, so he didn't play. Jason Bean played, who filled in for Daniels a couple games last year too. So it's going to be tough. I think the line was already out on Friday. I saw it. Thursday or Friday I saw it, and had Kansas as a 2-point favorite. I think that probably goes up. I think it turns into like a 4.5, 3.5, 4.5, maybe even 5-point spread for Kansas. I think Illinois is definitely going to be the underdog going into next week. So that is that's it. That's going to be the game next week. It is a Friday night game, 7:30 on ESPN2 in Lawrence. ESPN FBI and Matchup Predictor has Illinois as a favorite, but I don't think the line's going to show that. I think it's going to be a 3 to 5 point spread for Kansas. So, all right, that was went a little bit longer than I thought, about 20 minutes. But thanks for joining. Thanks for getting in the chat. This will be on demand as well if you want to go back and listen to anything or take notes of anything that I said and put the receipts in for future reference, and come at me on Twitter or any of that good stuff, because you know where to find me. Thanks for joining. We'll be back sometime next week with our normal weekly show, me and Logan. Don't know if we're going to do it Monday since it's Labor Day or not, but we'll do something this week. And then Friday night, I might hop back on if Logan's available. Might hop back on as well. But for tonight, Illinois wins 30-28, 1-0 on the year. It was a grind. It was not always pretty, but it's 1-0. We're on to Kansas.